a little 2 week period there. I think we had Kyle streaming last Thursday night.
We did. It was a fun time.
I was unable to attend. Well, I actually popped in once or twice. Um,
Yeah, it was a
but
fun stream.
but yeah, Kyle, you wanna talk a little bit about what the stream was primarily for you?
Yeah, so we basically were just sort of figuring out what deck we were going to play at the 1K. It was a local 1K at one of our stores. Ended up being about, I think it was 28 to 30 people or so. But we essentially started with what the deck that I wanted to play, which is the red-green evasive deck, and made some changes as we went along. We actually ended up going undefeated on the stream, which was really cool. And then we had some technical difficulties, but the games we did get in were really fun. And we made some small changes to the deck as we went along.
And yeah, not only did you go undefeated during the play testing, but you also went undefeated during the tournament play.
That is correct. I lost
Okay.
exactly one game out of the uh, 5 matches plus top 8 match. So exactly one game. It was to 3 be prepared, which does happen sometimes. Variance can't you can't get away from variance all the time. But yeah, it was pretty much I called an undefeated day for the most part.
Yeah, three be prepared is a lot. I mean,
It's
right?
a
Like
lot.
don't overextend. Okay, sure, be prepared. Okay, do it again
Yep.
and again. That's rough.
Yep.
But that's awesome. Yeah. So I had heard that there are quite a few people that were interested in what's going on here and everything like that, and I know that everybody is really excited, obviously, for the second chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, we will definitely get into Kyle your deck um in a little bit. But first, I kind of wanted to go away, not Disney adjacent. It's Disney adjacent, so it's not exactly Lorcana related. But I did want
Mm-hmm.
to mention two movies that I recently saw that are Disney movies. So,
Okay.
as you all know that have been following, I have not seen a lot of the movies that make up
Nope.
these cards. So there are a lot of cards that I have no idea about the references on. So
That
I've
has
been going
been
through.
glaringly obvious to
Yeah,
us.
yeah, it's been glaringly obvious, I know. So I have this note. So here's this fine. This is a. It's going to be pretty hard to see this, but this is the Disney movies to watch
Oh God,
list.
that's a lot.
It's a lot. You could scroll
Are these
like
rewatches or are
these
these
are
ones that you've never
watches.
seen?
Never
Oh my
seen.
lord.
There are more. You could scroll all the way down. Yep. Emily
I'm
is
so
shaking her
sorry,
head in the background.
everybody, that you
Yeah,
have to see this. This is horrifying.
I know it is horrifying, right? It's like I should have had some kind of warning before showing people that list
Yeah.
of. Yeah.
Jump scare for our viewers.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Jump scare warning. Here's the list. Um, most of them are first time watches.
Oh my
Some
lord.
of them I literally saw once in the movie theater in the 90s when they came out and do not remember.
Alright, so what do we see this weekend?
So we've seen so the ones on the list so far that I have seen are Frozen,
Okay.
Moana, right? Emperor's New Groove,
Okay.
which was great. Um, I gotta check that one off. I didn't check that one off. Hold on. Emperor's New Groove. There we go. Okay. And then most recently, uh, Elemental, which is brand new. So I wouldn't even
That's the
say
one I
you
have
didn't.
not seen out of
Okay, there
those.
we go. So I saw Elemental, and then I saw Hercules.
Oh, for the first time ever?
Yes. So
Oh my god.
so
We're
yeah.
gonna
So
start losing viewers now.
I know, or just people to laugh. Like we should sell like tomatoes or whatever. Um, yeah. So I saw Hercules for the first time yesterday,
It is a
and
fantastic movie.
it
So
was
many
great.
great jokes.
It was. It really was. So yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I knew the characters, right? Like some of the characters you know from mythology and not Disney,
Yep.
right? So like you know who Hercules is and you know who Zeus is and Hades, like, but seeing them, in a Disney format was really cool.
Yes.
Um, so far, I think that my favorite movie has been Frozen. Still, actually, I don't know. I like them all.
Frozen was very good. I'm a big fan of Frozen too, honestly, but Frozen itself was very
That's
good.
what I've heard. So I mean that will be next, obviously. But I think my favorite song so far has been You're Welcome in Moana.
Yep, great one.
So I fully expect that to be, a song card at some point soon.
I'd be cool with that.
Yeah, I think that will definitely happen. Um, but yeah, with when I was watching and I was seeing or hearing just how many songs there are, I thought to myself how Lorcana, obviously uses song cards, and in our first set we had a ton of them.
Hmm.
I looked up how many songs are in current animated Disney movies.
I couldn't even imagine. We have to be in what, the thousands
It,
easily, right?
it's it's about 1,200.
Yep,
So
that's a
if so
lot of
yeah,
IP.
so if they kept up with if Ravensburger kept up with the number of songs that are in the chapter in chapter 1 and put those in every chapter, so 4 times a year,
Hmm.
we would run out of songs before the 10-year plan that they had discussed.
Hmm. But you also have to take into account maybe more musical Disney movies in the future.
For sure, for sure. But I think that some of those songs, I don't know all of them by any means, but obviously, but I think that some of them won't make the cut for cards. I don't right. Like you have to imagine.
Most likely, or maybe turn them into actions instead and not the actual song itself. There's
Right.
options they
Yeah.
have.
Like I don't know like how many universally under like duds there are in Disney songs. Maybe not many, but
Not many, I would say.
yeah. But I was thinking that, and then it made me start to think that maybe they cut down on the number of songs. Like they started off the first set with like a lot of songs that are
Yeah.
notable, and everyone, and then maybe they start to cut back a little bit on some of the songs, especially considering the songs are really powerful, in my opinion. Like
Yes.
right, so
Yeah, I think most of them, or not of all of them, I've seen play.
and because of the limited number of cards in a set, granted it's a large number. They're 204 is a lot, but
Hmm.
because they said that they're going to stick with 204 cards in every set, if they want to add new card types or anything like that in the future, you kind of got to cut back on some of the cards, and those are the ones I could see
Yeah.
like getting kind of moved over. Um, so I wanted to first kind of jump into your deck, Kyle, because you had such a good performance this weekend. You deserve the
Yeah.
spotlight here. So let's check out your red green evasive deck right here, and I've highlighted your favorite card, Tigger.
Yeah, so this is looks probably familiar to people that were on not my stream, but our last podcast. I sort of gave like my budget version of what a red green evasive deck would look like. And this is that deck, but with access to every card in the pool. Um, there are some weird numbers here that people probably look at. I know that you specifically asked me, why are there three genies? Um, it seems like a weird thing to do, but I really went hard on the having the high willpower cards to combo with Meg. And I was initially on 4 Meg as we started off, but as I went along, Meg on the play is horrible. Have you ever played Meg on the play? Because it's not very good.
She does nothing on the play. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, she does literally nothing. Um, to the point where if I'm on the play, I'm gonna almost mulligan her every time, unless I don't have a play. And Genie and Krella on the draw are much better. Krella is my 2-drop of choice, and I'll get into that a little bit later when we get to sort of the higher drops in the deck. Um, but as we go along, right, like the obvious inclusions are you're maxing out on every red evasive card. 4 Tigger, 4 Pongo, 4 Goofy. All of these cards have something in common, is that they all quest for 2 and have relatively okay stats for their cost. Um, Another cool thing about them is that none of them die to grab your sword, um, which is really one of the only ways to get around evasives in this set if you're not playing evasives. Have you played against any like of the evasive decks yet, or at least just evasive cards in general that you've had sort of some issues with?
I have issues with most evasive cards when playing any kind of control deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have to just use removal for them because the control decks generally play some lower end characters to essentially be pseudo removal cards, but when you deal with characters that are pretty efficiently costed that can't be banished by Rafiki or Zeus or anything like that or Gaston, like it's hard. It's hard to kind of keep up,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the incremental damage, getting put to like 12 before you can be prepared is usually backbreaking.
Mm-hmm. And then
So
at that point, the opponent is normally, if they know sort of what they're doing, um, not overextending. So like, yeah, you want to be prepared, but you know that if they have 5 cards in their hand, like they're gonna play 1 to 2 threats after that, and that makes it a little harder.
yeah, no, it certainly does.
Um,
What were
there
some
were
of the other cards that you felt like stood out? Like it looks like numbers
so
wise, the
everything.
deck's pretty like standard, right?
Mm-hmm. John Silver is awesome in this deck.
Okay.
I know that like it doesn't have a sort of home yet, but one of the reasons why John Silver is so cool in this deck is that if you have, let's say, a Corella, and 2 evasive cards, you quest with all 3, you play John Silver, you make one of their guys have to attack, they have to attack the Corella no matter what. So it's one of the reasons why I like Corella in this build a lot. Um, but John Silver is just a great like late game bomb, and he quests for 2 and he does it every time. And him and Jasper together give you great outs against like the Emerald Tempo decks that play like Flynn and Cheshire Cat, because it neutralizes them without you having to invest more cards into them. John Silver is definitely the MVP almost all day.
I think that makes sense. I've really liked John Silver a lot. Um, and yeah, I've never really felt bad about having that card in my hand either, right? Like it's inkable, so it never really
Mm-hmm.
feels bad. Um, how do we feel about the deck moving forward now that we've got a few spoiled cards? I know we're gonna like,
So
yeah.
with the spoil cards that I've seen so far, let me
If
get
you
a little bit of
so for
because
like,
on Dreamborn they actually have the spoiled
well,
cards.
I've got them all. So if you like, for
Yeah.
instance, I kind of wanted to pull up this one, I guess, first because this is
Mm-hmm.
like the main big one that I could see moving into the deck. But the deck would
Oh, is it
kind of
Bill?
take shape. No, well, so this one's mini.
Yes. Yeah, so this is a card that because I'm playing mini, you sort of are incentivized to have to look at, right? Um, I don't love that we'd have to get away from being super character heavy into actions, but I think the stat line is actually okay, especially dropping it on 2. Um, it's something that I would potentially cut Peter Pan's for, I would cut Meg's for. Um, it's a card that I think I want in the deck, even if I don't have any actions to play. Because I think playing it on 2 is a big deal because it's bigger than most things, and nothing's going to tack into it besides like Pongo, but you're way ahead of the curve on that one. I like this card a lot, even without actions, in all honesty.
Even without actions, really, you could.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it is a card that I could definitely get behind. Um, obviously, if better actions come out, I would like to see what happens here, but one of the strengths of this deck is the fact that it is 52 inkable cards, and a lot of the actions that are relevant nowadays are not. So like Mother Knows Best is um not inkable. Dragonfire, not inkable. Um People underestimate how good inkable cards are in the decks, and it's one of the reasons why Amber's Steel is so good now. Because a lot of that deck is inkable too. Gives you flexibility, it gives you you can choose what to ink. I like a lot having 50 plus inkable cards, as long as you're not um stripping away from the power level of the deck. Like this red green evasive deck, I'm playing all the cards I want to play. I'm not losing out on a card because it's not inkable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that, and I get the appeal, and it does like I've play tested a decent amount with these mostly inkable decks, and they do
Hmm.
feel a lot better. The mulliganing feels really easy. The games feel very consistent, so
Yes.
it is nice to have that kind of like it's just
Y-
safe, right? Like you just know you're in every game. Your deck's gonna play out the
Yeah.
similarly.
The games where I went two drop, three drop, four drop, five drop,
Mhm.
most of the time, even on the draw, I was just too far ahead for my opponent to do anything.
So I was gonna pull up a.
Especially in a non-be prepared deck. In a non-be prepared deck,
Mhm.
it's very hard. Like those Sapphire ramp decks, Hades is just not good enough.
So with when we were talking about mini, you mentioned, even if you weren't playing that many actions, you would still play mini. But I was thinking
Hmm.
about like, what if mini kind of warps the deck and you do want to play more actions? Could you see a card like Hypnotize being played in this deck?
In this specific deck, yes, I can. If you want to go the route of maybe a little less aggro, a little more tempo mid range, it could be a spot for Mickey Mouse Artful Rogue. You know, there are
I didn't even
even
think about that card. Yeah.
the 8 drop Genie. Because I'm pretty sure 8 drop Genie lets you play actions for free, right?
I think it's an action that costs 5 or less for free.
Yeah, so ways to double up, like getting double hypnotized, going, turn one mini, turn two mini, turn three hypnotized, and then maybe double hypnotized later in the game, probably feels really good, right? Is it too cute? Maybe, but it's something to look at.
That's true. That's fair. I mean, I think it's really cool. I mean, so far, I don't want to say that like because of the ratio of certain cards that we've seen so far in the spoilers for Chapter 2, that means that that will be the ratio going forward.
Hmm.
But if it is a sign of things to come, I'm really excited because we're going to see more action cards where in the
Hmm.
past we didn't, right? We saw a good amount of songs, as we've discussed, obviously, and a good amount of characters, but not so many actions. And we're seeing cards that benefit by playing actions more and more. Um,
Yes.
we have another green action right here called Bounce that we've never really gone over, and it seems like I don't know, maybe it's kind of vanilla, but I think it could be useful. It's kind of a downfall because like you can't ink it, but
Yeah, this feels to me more like a weird combo card than it does a tempo card. Um,
mhm,
I don't love that if you like draw it off the top and you don't have two characters to target with it, it feels like a dead card.
right.
Um, so I feel like this could be the start of some cool like combo because we haven't seen any combo decks. I don't even know if that's something that's on Ravensburg's like agenda, right? Like maybe they just don't want combo decks in their game. I don't know. Um, but I like the possibility because I'm a combo player at heart. So I would like to see something like that happen. Another cool thing about this card is that you can actually choose two of your own characters. You don't have to, but you can, which is cool.
Yeah, I think that that portion of it was lost, and I know we had discussed that over on Twitter when the card originally came out.
Hmm.
That yeah, you can also return two of your own. Um,
Yes, you can.
it
I don't
could
know
be
how
cool.
relevant it's going to be, but it is a card that seems like it could be cool.
It's odd because it's like pseudo protection from a board wipe, but then it also keeps the board wipe in their hand,
Yes.
right? Like if I just play that card, then it doesn't really protect. I don't know. It's interesting. You
Hmm.
can keep one large threat on the board and then not go as wide and reset. But I think that we're gonna see some kind of combo cards, and I think that the biggest target is probably gonna be Merlin coming up, right? We've already
Hmm.
seen quite a few,
That
but
reads
like
that reads like a tempo, like a combo card.
yeah, but I'm most interested in the Merlin that we can't read, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But right, like we have no idea what he does. But I mean, we'll wait. We also got because you were already talking about some of the Emerald cards. We got who I think is a really neat one in Bucky, who I know in Disney now because I watched the movie,
Yes.
and Prisoner Groove. But yeah, Bucky Squirrel Squeak Tutor is just a 1/1 for 2 that has ward, so it's not easily picked off,
Mm-hmm.
and it forces a discard, right? So, is there a hate bear like deck forming? We already thought that maybe there was a lemon lime Haiti hate-ish deck, right? Causing your opponent to discard a bunch of cards, cause your opponent to make a lot of decisions that they don't want to make. We're seeing
Yeah, I
a
mean,
little
I
bit
think this
more.
card's really cool. I don't. I wish it was a 1/2 really bad because it just gets swept up by tank if you want to keep it on the board forever.
Sure.
Which I don't like. I think like this being a 1/2 would have made it like potentially really playable, and making it a 1/1. They're like sending a message with it that like it's not supposed to stay on the field for very long.
Hmm.
It's like you're not questing with it and you're not swinging into something. Um, I wish it was a 1/2. I don't know. I don't think it would have broken the game if it was a 1/2. I think it would have just seen maybe a little more marginal play than the play that it might see now.
Speaking of additional reasons why it should have been a 1/2, we had a steel card called Robin Hood Capable Fighter spoiled.
I like this card a lot.
Yeah, right. This is a 1/3 for 2, and it obviously can ping off all of the 1/1s that we normally had problems with.
This feels like an answer to if the potential aggro deck was too dominating. They like pre-printed an answer to it almost.
Hmm.
If that makes sense. If they were like, oh, like Lilo was just too good. Let's print something that if it's not that good, this card doesn't really see much play. If it is that good, then it has like an innate home, which would be cool.
Yeah. And I believe what card was just spoiled that says whenever a Dreamborn is played?
Was that just spoiled?
I think so. Wasn't there a card that
Let's
said
see.
whenever a Dreamborn is played, then something?
Um, let us take a look. Maybe our chat can help us out if anybody knows.
Yeah, please. Definitely says whenever a Dreamborn card is played, then X. Or whenever you. I really can't think of.
Whenever you play a Dreamborn card.
Maybe. Either way, I feel like
Let's
that
see.
that will be a big. I feel like Robin Hood Capable Fighter is going to be a card that's going to see play in decks for sure.
Yeah, it's a cool card because right, it seems like Steel is really cementing itself as like the pinging characters color. So like you have this cool combination of like Tink, Grab Your Sword, Smash, Robin Hood, Hans, that like you can like combine them in different ways to deal with specifically what you need to deal with, no matter what toughness it's at or what
Do you think
willpower it's
do you
at.
think a card like this works alongside of a card like Cannonball Cannons, or like just replaces it? Because I can't think of any
It
cards
could be
that have
both. I don't like
two.
that they're
Yeah,
both uninkable, but this plus Fire the Cannons, I mean deals with Simba and stuff like that, but you would be pinging the Lilo anyway that's behind the Simba.
right.
Um, So it seems like maybe Fire the Cannons is not gonna be good enough because like at that point you can just play Smash or you can play Hans
Right.
or Tink or
Yeah,
whatever it is. I was high on Fire the Cannons initially and now I'm not as high because 2 damage is just sort of not I feel like where you want to be. I think 1 or 3 is just better.
that's what I think. I can't think of
Yeah,
too many cards where it's critical that we deal 2 damage to them, but I can think of a ton where it's 1 or 3 for sure.
exactly. Exactly.
Um, we had one other card spoiled that we had
Mhm.
mentioned, Panic. And so for me, right, so Panic was spoiled 2 days ago. And I read
Yes.
Panic and I go, okay, Panic pumps pain. Cool. What does that mean? I don't understand the
What does
reference.
Pain
And
do?
that's what led me to watching Hercules actually. Not
Yep.
yeah. Um so
They're
so now
very
I at least know what pain
flotsam and
looks
jetsam,
like.
right? Like that's what they are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I imagine that pain will be a little bit bigger stat-wise than Panic,
Yep,
right?
maybe a 4 drop, maybe a 5 drop.
It'll probably be like a 1/5 or something like that,
Yep, something like that.
and then it becomes say a 5/5 for the turn when you play Panic.
Yep.
Um,
And then you got to figure out, well, what's good after you play Panic, right? Like, does it add lore? Does it add? You have no idea, you know. But you
the
got to figure it's something that's good after you play this card.
well, the other thing is that you really hope that Pain is at least inkable, right?
You would hope
Because
so, yeah.
right, because then you've got to play maybe 8 cards in your deck that are already not inkable. Like that feels wrong from the start.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people sort of just mumbling about whether this is better than Cheshire Cat. Um, and as an avid Cheshire Cat player, I think maybe. Um, they have a similar stat line: 3 drop, 3 toughness for 2 lore. One of the things about Cat is that it's not good against the smaller attackers because they just pick it off with whatever small dude that they want. Um, but it's inkable. I don't like that this is not inkable in an Emerald deck where you might be playing Bell now, you might be playing Cusco, like you might be playing Genie. There are a lot of powerful uninkable cards, and I don't like having more of them in my deck.
Yeah, yeah. I'd much rather. I, as of right now, I'm playing Cat. I'm not playing this card
Yes,
yet. Right? Like we
unless Pain blows us away, but Flotsam and Jetsam didn't blow me away, so I don't. I think these are more like limited cards or just cards that are there.
mhm.
Um, but you never know. I do think it's cool that Hades is in the art because his robe is there,
That is really
and
cool.
it it looks like he's pointing to something, which is not the Cave of Wonders. It's pretty obviously not the Cave of Wonders. Um, so with so many of like these cool like lore things in the art, if you've seen them, like on Cogsworth, like it is the background that behind I think it's Ursula maybe, or in Minnie, if you look at it before, she's finding Ursula's cavern. Like it's the same thing.
Hmm.
So it's cool how like you have to really look at the art and figure out, all right, cool, how are they like combining all of these stories together into like one big thing, which is what the ink spilling is doing, right? All their
Right.
stories are getting mixed up, which is cool.
Um. Yeah, I am. I do like, and I wonder if the cards are spoiled in order. Um. No Dreamboard synergy spoiler, at least. To Brain in the chat. No Dreamboard synergy spoiler, at least not one I could find. Nothing on Lorcana
Mm-hmm.
HQ or maybe it was a maybe it was like some fan made thing that I saw that
Maybe.
I'm
I
now
think you're
like
lying,
thinking.
everybody.
I think I may be lying to everybody, but I do
Yeah.
think that it will happen. Um,
I mean, yeah, why not, right? Like, why not?
but yeah, maybe I dreamt that up or something. I don't
It
know.
is weird to me that Panic isn't a villain, because, like, he's so clearly a villain. But, like,
So that's
well,
what
you know.
right. So as I was getting ready to watch Hercules, I had mentioned like, oh, Panic is an ally, and the response I got was like, well, sort of, but no, right?
Yeah, he's not, like, as intrinsically evil as, like, say, Hades, right? Like, he was like, oh, I'm not gonna finish killing this baby. I'm just gonna let him chill. Um,
But like he
it
tried.
also... He definitely tried. It almost feels like they don't want to just arbitrarily slap villain onto certain characters to not make that first Hades good. I think it would, they sort of
Oh,
pigeonhole
interesting.
themselves into that from the get go, right? Like that card is always going to be around, so you have to be careful on just slapping villain on random things.
Interesting. I didn't consider that at all.
Yeah.
That's smart. So have we seen a villain spoiled yet?
We might have.
Oh
Let's
yeah, we did.
see.
We
You
we
can
saw
go to
we
Team
saw the
Lore.
I'll show you. It's Gaston, the
Yes.
intellectual. The
Card is
six
very
ink
cool.
4/4, yeah.
Yeah, he's
But
smart because he has glasses on.
he's smarter because he's got the glasses on. Yeah, before he had the glasses on, he was not smart.
The Queen is also a villain.
Oh, true. That's
The
a
Shift 2 Queen.
yeah, that's a pretty notable villain.
Yep.
and it's more notable because
That's it for now, though.
yeah, it's even more notable because it is in Amber,
Yep.
right?
I'm
Like
curious
that's
as if like they're gonna print a one drop queen, or if this queen is specifically meant to be put onto like other queens, whether they're 5 drops or not, as like a almost like a removal spell, right? Like you just play this on top of your already 5 drop queen, as a 2 drop to get the effect. I wonder if that's something they're experimenting with and
eh,
not just like, oh, like if it's shift 2, that has to mean there's a 1 drop queen, right? Like maybe
yeah,
not.
like shift cards don't necessarily have to be Pokemon evolutions, right?
Yep,
Like doesn't have to
that's
be
a great example. Yes.
right. Like just because Pokemon evolved from a basic to a level 2 and whatever, like doesn't mean that that has to happen
Mhm.
here. And I think that is pretty cool with the
Yeah.
Queen. I could already see it with the Queen because I could see you've now drawn your card with the Queen, and right, like you're using an active on the one card, and then when you shift, you get an enter play ability.
It's one of those character quests, but I can still see the.
Oh, it's whenever. Never mind. I thought it was when it entered. It's when it quests. So maybe not. I don't know. Then
It's
that.
just funny that it's shift 2 when we have no idea whether or not there's exactly a one. That means there would have to be exactly a 1 drop queen, and if there isn't a 1 drop queen, then we know that this is made as like a cool, just like design choice.
Yeah. Nah, but seeing that makes me want to believe that there is going to be some kind of lower cost queen. It just
I would
seems
have to
weird.
imagine
It just
yes.
seems weird flavor wise. I don't know if we've necessarily seen a lower cost card that
Hmm.
is such a featured character. I
This
lied.
just seems so good on 2, right? Like almost breakingly so. How do you beat this card on if you're on the draw and someone plays this turn 2? You know what I mean?
It seems like
This card seems nuts on the draw or on
what
the play.
what was the card in there was a card in Magic on the what was it? It was on the play. You got to play the Planeswalker on turn 2. Oh, I mean Liliana the Veil in Standard was insane on turn 2.
Yeah.
This kind of feels like that. Yeah, like if you're on the play and you get to go like, yeah, I'm gonna quest with a 4/3 for 2. I
What's
don't
beating
know.
that?
I
And
don't know
also
what's
anything
beating
that
that.
tries to quest into it, you just eat it in response, like in the next turn. It just seems like it's too good on turn 2, which
Right.
is why to me feels like that is not meant to be a turn 2, as you say, evolution. And yes, Lily off of Deathrite Shaman was absolutely nuts.
Yeah, there was even in standard there was also a I think it was Arbor Elf into oh no, it was just Llanowar Elf into Domri
Yeah,
on the
just
play
stuff
was
like that.
borderline impossible to beat. Yeah, so we don't want to see
Yep.
things. Sorry, not to diverge too much into Magic, but like we don't want to see things like that in Lorcana.
Hmm.
I don't
Like this
think.
on turn 2 seems like an absolute beating.
Yeah. So let's
I
let's
almost
not do
hope
that.
there's not a 1 drop queen. I almost hope there's not, just for that.
Yeah, so Ravensburger, if you're listening, please don't do that. Just please don't
Yeah.
do that yet. Like we give us some time first before we start to really hate ourselves.
Hmm.
Um, what other cards? So we've got here's another one. I'm just pulling up some quick ones here. Here's Cinderella Knight in Training. This card is very obviously to be used in the steel deck that will utilize Big Cinderella, right? Like we want to shift her onto Cinderella Stouthearted. Um, she gets to
I have
filter
a
your
different
deck.
use for this card, but I do think that is why they printed it.
She gets to filter your deck. Do you want to discard cards to bring them back with Hades? Like what do you want to do with this card?
No, I think this is better in the whole New World mill deck. I think having 8 characters that let you filter through your deck that are also inkable, because that deck just has a naturally high level of uninkable cards, is
Hmm.
very good.
Interesting. Okay, that's fair.
I
That's
wouldn't even. I obviously wouldn't even play the big Cinderella in that deck, right? but having like Simba is a staple in that deck, and this is just a 2-drop Simba that is also inkable.
Yeah, that's
Not that the deck's even very good, but like it's a deck that's still a deck that people have played. So I think that's where I would start with this card for me. But I think it's very obviously like Cinderella Shift Bait. I think that's why it's there.
Simba. Sorry, it's a deck that is a deck, is what the
Yes, it is a deck
analysis
that is a
was.
deck.
It's a deck that's a deck. That's fair. It certainly is.
Hmm
uh, so
And I
I
think
guess
that the downfall of that deck is the ratio of inkable to non-inkable. I think it's what that makes that deck unplayable.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily unplayable, but I think it's what makes it very inconsistent.
Hmm Yeah, exactly. That's the better term for it for sure.
Yeah, because it's definitely good, like when it, but it's like this, like when players say, "Oh, this deck's great when it works," or like this
Hmm
card's really good when it does. It's like, yeah, well, all
Every
cards,
deck
as
is.
in right, like if the card wasn't
Yeah.
great in a specific scenario, then you wouldn't ever play the
hmm
deck in the first place.
Every
But
goldfish makes a deck feel absurd.
correct, yeah,
You
of
do
course,
not know how good a deck is. Just as like for all you brewers out there, you do not know how good a deck is until you play it against decks that are known to be good. Because goldfishing is just there to just sort of get a feel for it. But goldfishing does not give you a good lens to filter power level through of a deck when
of
there's
course.
already a format.
So I guess the next thing we want to go over real quick, because this has been kind of a little bit longer than we expected for this, but it's good because honestly, spoilers are exciting, and I know that's kind of what gets the people going.
Yeah.
So I don't mind talking about.
Ignore my name on the top left.
Yeah. So
The
so
name of the winner is to the right.
yeah. So here is a deck tech from the Apex 1K.
Hmm
Um, it's
Shout out to the Lost Boys. That was their tournament.
yes, this is their tournament. And thank you to Todd for sending us the deck list. Right?
Yeah. They made a. There's an article actually if you really wanted to like get a deep dive into it. But I just ripped all the deck lists from that article. But they did the a great thing for everybody. If you look on like TCG Player, like Infinite or whatever it is, um, you can get a cool rundown of those decks. But I just made it easier for our viewers to digest because those are just like lists. This is a lot easier for people to see and visualize.
Exactly. And yeah, so this is the winner. Um
This is
and
my deck choice if I wasn't playing red green evasive. This deck is awesome.
I've noticed that a lot of these the Apex events, a lot of people are running um these Amber Steel decks.
It is very popular in Ohio for some reason. I mean, the deck is powerful, right? The deck is extremely powerful. But it is very popular in that specific meta.
And like I just I really enjoy this one a lot because I think they do a good job of utilizing the 2 ink Aladdin. Um, Obviously, I've pulled up Captain Hook thinking a happy thought because it's just a card that you don't see as often as others.
Mm-hmm.
And
I like this card a lot.
I like their numbers a lot. They're not afraid to play three ofs and two ofs instead of just your standard four ofs in every deck because this player probably knows how to pilot the deck really well and knows how to mulligan
Mm-hmm.
efficiently.
I mean, there
Um,
are some very good players at Apex. Very good players. Um, so I would have to imagine this particular person not only built their deck well, but also piloted it very well.
yeah, for sure. Obviously, it's still playing four of Lilo, four of Rapunzel, four of Simba, four of Ariel, but yeah, I really like that they play three Smash and two Cannons. I like that they didn't want to like
Mm-hmm.
try to jam four of in it, and they have four Grab Your Sword, but like that's, I mean, sure, right? Like that's just great.
Yeah, I
But yeah,
think this also really exemplifies the fact that there are two distinct Amber Steel decks, the aggro deck and the mid-range deck. This is very clearly the aggro deck, right? It plays Lilo, it plays Simba, it plays 2-drop Aladdin. Like this is even Captain Hook can be considered an aggressive card. And I think the reason why it's really aggressive is you want to maximize Stitch value. Um, and this is clearly the aggressive slanted version of this deck. I think a whole new world puts it in that category as well.
Agreed. And like we were saying, like the in Ohio, for whatever reason, these Amber Steel decks really took over. So I've pulled up the fourth place deck there, which is another Amber Steel deck, but it again
Mm-hmm.
is very different.
Mm-hmm. And this is where my point comes into play.
So like the deck plays Moana, the deck's playing
Mm-hmm.
Hans, the deck's playing this hot. I disagree. So this part I disagree with. I disagree with playing one of Hades. Um,
And two part of your world.
yeah. So I just disagree with playing one Hades because I've always felt that the best part about Hades is that they can grab each other.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I play Hades Lord of the Underworld, I'm playing it because I want to cycle
Chain
them,
them to get a
right? I
board
just want to
state again.
chain
Yep.
these. Yeah, I want to like make your life miserable where you can't really truly ever wipe my board because I'm just going to get my other one back. And playing one of
Mm-hmm.
them just feels a little bit weird to me. I would cut any of the
I don't like the part of your world in all honesty. Yeah, you can get them off of Ariel, and you can sing them, but I would rather them be Hades as well.
right.
They're both uninkable, so there's no reason one or the other. Obviously this person knew what they were doing, but personally, I like the three Hades over the two part of your world.
Yep, exactly.
Um, I also really like Stitch in this deck a lot. And notice how there's no six drop Stitch; they lean into seven drop Stitch, which differentiates the two versions of Amber Steel, aggressive or mid range.
So what do we have next? We
I'll
have
also say before you switch, if
yeah,
you notice the two Cerberus, right? I was talking to a lot of the players, which maybe you guys will see on the podcast one day because they were super cool dudes and knew what they were doing. Um, a lot of people are actually switching from Cerberus to Crunk to beat other Cerberus.
let's call him Crunk.
Crunk is just this. Yep, Crunk is the six drop 6/6 instead of the five drop 5/6 because it eats Cerberus.
Oh
That is a
God, so
card that is starting to see play,
that's
and
that
to me,
that's that next
I
level
know what
tech.
you're gonna say. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what happens in a small set. Um, pardon my language, but I call it like an inbred meta, which means that like people will change things to combat things in the meta, and then people will change things to combat that. It is such a small set that deck lists aren't set in stone nowadays. You have to build your deck to beat the decks that are already trying to beat your deck. Um, a lot of Lorcana success comes from preparation and finding the best 60 for that particular week, which is a lot different than other card games, in my opinion. And it's only because it's one set. I think that's why that is.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. And once more sets are out, we'll start to see a little bit different
Mm-hmm.
takes on that. But that is true. Um, the next deck is the third place deck, and this is more along the lines of the deck that you played.
You'll
Um,
notice there's a lot of similar cards,
it's a lot
almost
of
glaringly so.
yeah, but again, like you were saying, like with only one set, there are so few cards to pick from that these are just the best
Mm-hmm.
ones. Mother Gothel is one of the notable cards that was not in your green red deck.
I think that's to beat the quote unquote mirror of things like Mad Hatter, um, Cheshire Cat, Flynn. This goes over the top of those cards. It
Hmm.
also helps you beat evasive cards if you don't have a bunch of evasive cards yourself.
It also notably plays 7 songs,
Mm-hmm.
um, which can be sung by 4, 7, 11, 14. Well, 14 plus cards, but 14 three drops.
Mm-hmm.
18 three drops? I lied. Yeah, 18 three drops. It's a pretty good ratio there. Um, and I mean, all of them are great. Like, the, this deck's really cool. I like that it's playing one Olaf. I think that
Yeah.
like is the one Olaf for the hand where you have Olaf Meg and you're like, all right, well this is the hand.
Probably right. I think Pascal is one of the reasons to play this deck. Honestly, Pascal is awesome. Um, and yeah, I don't know. Is that just like I think this is cool, or like there's like actual deck building decisions behind it? You know,
There could be some like calculated split here. Um, Three Dukes is interesting. Um,
like they very clearly wanted 8 1 drops, but didn't know like what was the better 1 drop to play. You knew they wanted 4 Pascal, but like, oh, do I want 3 goons or like maybe a 2-2 split would have been better? I don't know, but they definitely made the choice of like I have 8 1 drops and that's it, no more.
it is interesting that like when you play a one of in a deck, you can mulligan it away freely. Like I don't know if
Yes.
there's maybe a matchup where like maybe there's a matchup where Olaf is a silver bullet. Like Olaf Meg is just the silver
Mm-hmm.
bullet for them. And they go, okay,
Yep.
well, if I have
I mean,
one,
it
then I'm
beats Simba, right?
right. So maybe if you're playing against
Like
the
you only want
non-sim,
Olaf on the draw against Amber.
it could. I mean, it sounds very specific, but it very well could be that case. And it's an easy mulligan when you're not in that scenario. So I could see it, I guess.
This to me feels like a local metagame decision, personally.
Maybe it's an Ohio metagame decision.
Yeah. But then at that point, you're like, well, why not 4 Olaf? But like, it's definitely a weird one. I like the 3 Rafikis. I potentially even go down to 2. Um, I like Jasper a lot because Jasper beats the Lilo Flynn decks and Cheshire Cat decks. Jasper was an all-star. Um, there's just a little too many uninkables for my liking, but that's what's just gonna happen in certain decks. It is what it is.
And last but not least, we've got Old Reliable here. This is
Old reliable.
Ruby Amethyst Control at its finest. And this is where I really, really like Ruby Amethyst Control. So it does play two Pongos because, like you're saying, the meta has shifted to respond to other meta decks, and that's what the decision's been. This one's interesting because it cut on the goons, right? It only plays two Archimedes instead of four.
Mm-hmm.
It's still playing four
And
brooms.
no Sorcerer Mickey.
Yes, it's notable. Yeah, four brooms, no sorcerer Mickey. After playing this deck a bunch, like I've been cutting more and more sorcerer Mickeys as I go. The brooms
Mm-hmm.
just like don't really provide the value that you need them to. Like the main purpose of the broom is to get your best cards back, not to trigger with the
Not to have this
Mickey and
weird like chain aggro deck.
yeah, it is nice when it happens, but it's not ideal. It doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
I like cutting to two Gastons. I would prefer to move up on the else accounts because 2/3s are good and we like them.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with three Aladdins, and the big cards are insane. There are so many big cards in this deck, like four Ursulas, four Aladdins, four Elsas, four Maleficents, and two BLTs is a lot. That is a
Mm-hmm.
lot. I've seen some of these Ruby Amethyst decks actually starting to cut down on Dragonfires to add
I can get
additional.
behind that.
Yeah, they add additional rush cards. And I could definitely see it in the future, especially if
Like it's
we.
bad in the mirror, right? Like it just I feel like maybe instead of trying to de-develop their board, you try to develop your own board. I haven't played a whole bunch of this deck. I played it a bunch on the other side.
Yeah,
Um,
I
you
can't.
definitely have more of the angle on this deck.
Yeah, I can't stress enough how important Elsa is in the deck, the small Elsa, because just being able to stick the 2/3 and then exert cards to smack them with Maui is really important.
Mm-hmm.
It's too easy at this point for a strong opponent to understand the situation and just play against it. Um, and, and
I do have
even
the next double tech for this deck though.
and even shield's a thing. Like opponents play
Yeah.
shield too. They could just they could just ready their own cards. So all right, so what's
Mm-hmm.
your next level tech for this deck?
These decks should be playing Tigger.
Okay, so
Um,
yeah, so
Tigger.
Tigger is an idea. Instead of Pongo, you could play Tigger if you want.
Honestly, I think both. I think people are starting to wise up on how good evasive cards are now, and I literally beat up on 3 Ruby Amethyst decks in the matches that I played,
Hmm.
specifically because they only had 2 Pongos, and one of them even had 2 Goofies, and I still beat them because they just could not beat the evasive threats. I think that Tigger specifically is good because it comes down early and it eats any evasive creature um, and lives. Aside from Brave Little Tailor, but the evasive decks aren't playing BLT anyway. It's just too much. Um, it eats any evasive creature and lives, so it gets to do double duty. And questing for 2 is like a big deal. Um, I don't know what you would cut in this deck. This is not my cup of tea. This deck, um, but I could see going down on Dragonfire or going down on whatever. But I think Tigger is very good. To the point where, like, if I'm playing against another Ruby Amethyst deck and I'm on Red Green Evasive and I see Tigger, I'm like, oh crap! I probably don't have a great shot here.
I think that
Tigger is the my least favorite card to see on the other side of the board.
I just feel like when you start to make changes like that, you're starting to kind of change the mold of the deck to the point where it's not even the deck anymore. Like, there's probably a
Which is possible.
there's a
But I mean, like
decent
there are a bunch of flex spots.
there. I suppose there are. Yeah. Um. But yeah,
Um,
and we haven't really seen too many cards for this deck, right? Like, we've only gotten
I don't
one.
think so. I
We've
think
only
this deck is
gotten.
gonna remain largely unchanged in the next set.
I mean, here, Sorcerer's Spellbook's the only card. Like, Sorcerer's Spellbook is the card that
Yes.
could change the deck. Um, but even still,
Yep.
these
And then at that
characters.
point, you move away from stuff like
Hmm. Uh, the thing is, Sorcerer's Spellbook is a card that, at first glance and in a vacuum, I look at it and I go, okay, cool, I don't need characters anymore. But that's not exactly true, right?
mm-hmm.
You need
But you still do, I
characters.
think.
You need characters because the characters act as removal spells and help you get to the end game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how good Sorcerer's Spellbook is. I'm not sure. I want to say it's really good because face value it looks great, but I'm not so sure.
Mm-hmm. I think you become like this deck to me teeters between mid range and control a lot for me. Like it's very obviously a control deck, right? But it also has these mid range aspects that control decks and other card games just don't have. But I think that's because of the nature of the game, right? Like you have to have a board state to win the game. And in other games you don't that's not necessarily true. So like every deck's gonna look like a creature mid range deck, even though it's like and we not. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
that's fair. So yeah, that covers. We've got our the meta in Ohio. We've got the meta in New York. We've got some card
Mm-hmm.
spoilers.
Meta
Uh,
in New York, I'll tell everybody, is all Ruby Amethyst, and then the rest is gonna be random steel decks. Steel Amber. I've seen a lot of Amber Sapphire as well,
hmm,
which is a color combo that we haven't talked about a lot. But I saw it firsthand, and the deck is very good. It actually goes over the top of Ruby Amethyst. I think it's a Ruby Amethyst killer.
interesting. And we still haven't
Mm-hmm.
seen any item combos.
No shiny crabs.
No, no shiny crabs, no readying aerial, nothing like that yet. In the chat, if it
Mm-hmm.
were inkable, it would be an easy one or two copies. Uninkables are already incredibly tight, though. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We don't know what the rest of the chapter two cards will bring, but if the list stays similar to the way it is right now, it is going to be rough to play. It
yeah.
may
It's like
not
you
be
have to make the
playable.
hard decision of like cutting mirrors or like cutting, maybe you do cut some Dragonfires. I don't know. Maybe 2 is the right move.
Well, I
Um,
was just thinking
and
about
you
the
have
deck.
4 be prepared.
I
It's
was
just tough.
I was just thinking about if we could play it in an items deck because it is an item, but even still, it doesn't really do anything. A lot of the other items are doing a lot more for them than gaining one lore.
Yeah, I think you'd because like you have to play blue for crab, right? And then I think you want red for Dinner Bell. I think Dinner Bell is gonna make that deck work.
Yeah.
Um, Most likely, in my opinion, and Shield is obviously good in that deck, right? So I think that like you probably want to be Sapphire Ruby, but I have no idea what's going to come. There's still 198 cards to be revealed, so that's a lot of stuff.
Exactly. But I think that's gonna do it for us for now. Do we have any other big news on the way or anything, Kyle?
Um, Not necessarily. I mean, I know that the shipment for Lorcana
Mm,
Chapter 1 got moved up to holiday, which is nice. So we're looking,
yep.
from what I've talked to from local game stores, at least around here, is going to be like early no like late mid to late November or early December. It's going to come before Chapter 2, which is nice. And then another wave is going to come in Chapter 2. So
Right.
like a reprint of Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, and then a sort of a re-release or whatever. But you're gonna have the ability to get more cards, which is nice.
I think.
I would just say
Yeah. Go ahead.
um, that like let's all be good people, right? Like if you have a lot of your stuff, like don't go crazy on trying to snipe stuff from other people. Like there are very few people that have a playset of the set, but like I'm pretty close. George is pretty close. Like me personally, like once I get my set, yeah, I might buy a few packs here and there because it's fun to open, right? But like I'm not gonna go snipe 3 boxes from my player base because that's not gonna get more players in my local community. The whole point is that I want more players. I want it to be bigger. So I'm gonna get the stuff I want, but I'm not gonna go crazy on it, personally.
The main thing that I think will keep the game moving is if the stores have enough product to give out as prize support
Hmm.
for the events.
And starter decks. Starter decks are
And the
huge
starter
for
decks,
people.
that's true. That is true.
Yeah, we need like 4 times as many starter decks out there because nobody with cards is gonna buy a starter deck.
Hmm.
But it's an awesome way for people to really actually get a deck going. You can't build a deck from 10 packs, right?
And
Like the starter deck is the best way to do it.
and Ravensburger did say that starter decks will be included in that reprint.
Mm-hmm.
So that is nice. That those will be
Yep.
readily available for people and they will get to the hands of the people that actually want them.
Mm-hmm. Because a bunch of people will play if they get a starter deck and let's say 10 packs, right? Like you can make a serviceable deck
Yeah,
from that.
you
But from what
definitely
I've
can.
seen, the sort of casual players that I saw at like our pre-release and in the beginning, like aren't coming anymore because they're just
Yes.
getting beat up on by players that have full meta decks and like I'm not gonna not bring a meta deck to a local event, just for to be the nice guy. I want to get testing in, I want to play, but you can really tell that it's taking a toll on people that really want to play but just can't.
Right. And I think that yeah, the I this is where the only two starter decks in chapter 2 is frustrating me so much because why? You had such a good thing with 3 starter
Yep.
decks, right?
Just switch up the colors every
You
set.
got to switch up. Yeah, so now you've only got 2 starter decks. You only represent 4 of the 6 colors in your game. And for chapter 2 pre-release events, what are you going to do? Like what is the
Mm-hmm.
event? Are they going to say, "Oh, chapter 2
Yeah.
sealed for pre-release?" Maybe. I'm fine with
And
that.
then you
I
have to
don't
have the
care.
product.
Right? But like that's a lot of product. Yeah. That
Yep.
doesn't seem to make any sense. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. I think that Ravensburg is definitely trying, and I applaud their trying. But you can definitely tell there's some mishaps
Mhm.
on some decisions they're making. Um, because like you've seen now that the player base is hungry and they want to play, but you're making it sort of hard for that to happen.
Exactly. Um but all right, I think that we'll wrap it up there and we'll say thank you again to everybody that was
Mm-hmm.
watching. We definitely plan on creating more we definitely plan on creating more content in the future. We have a few people that want to start writing articles.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna get our
Including
Patreon
ourselves, which
set
is
up,
gonna be
including
great.
ourselves. Yeah, and I've done it in the past. Kyle has done it in the past.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, we really like to get some more content out there for
Yeah.
you on top of the
That's digestible
podcast.
in ways that aren't just specific to you guys. I mean, I love that you guys come and watch us, which is awesome. But we want to make, I think, easier ways for you guys that maybe you don't have this time slot available. but you still want to get content, you still want to get deck lists and whatever it happens to be. So I think that'll be nice for everybody.
And we are working, I don't want to say exactly like Apex, but we are working behind the scenes to get a few larger scale events going
Mm-hmm.
that we will stream and broadcast to all of you. So at some point we will be looking to host a 1K, 2K, 5K, whatever it is. We'll have commentary and everything like that set up. You'll get to see live gameplay of a tournament, not not Pixelborn,
Pixelborn, yep.
right? Not Tabletop Simulator. You'll actually see live gameplay. We'll get it done right. If you're unsure about a card, it's going to appear on the side of your screen, just like you would have had at old SCG before they stopped streaming events because I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's the plan. That's our. I want to say like that's our 10-year plan, like Ravensburger. No, that's our like not even 3 month plan at this point.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, thank you all for watching.
Yes, it's been a blast.
Absolutely. We will be here next Thursday, same time, same place. All right.
Have a great night.
Have a good night.